concepts about the solidarity economy, who we are, what the project is, and then we're going to ask you to reflect a couple times on how your work fits into this and ideas about what you might have about building the solidarity economy in your homes. So sorry. I'm Rebecca Kemble. I'm a worker owner at Union Cab of Madison, have been a taxi driver and worker co-op member since the year 2000, and I have been involved in the worker cooperative movement for many, many years. And in 2020, upon the death of our beloved friend Alandria Williams, with whom many of us were doing work to build the solidarity economy, we we decided to make this project, the Solidarity Economy Principles, as a way to honor their legacy and as a way to present some very basic principles about how we hold the work and how we relate to each other as we're doing it, because there had been over the years a lot of sort of mission creep or not enough solidarity in the work. Let me put it that way. So that's where this work came. It came out of a gathering of elders, of probably over 20 elders in the worker co-op and solidarity economy movement. And it's an ongoing piece of work that is it's a living thing that we're constantly adding new practices to and reflecting on principles. So I'll pass it to Maria.
Hola, hola, hola. How are you all? Maria, I am with the Solidarity Economy Principles Project. Very happy to be here with Rebecca. And I am an educator, I'm a geographer, and I have been in the cooperative world. I was the co-creator, the co-founder of Caracol Language Cooperative that operated in New York City for about a decade in many formations, but as a cooperative for about 7 years. And that experience gave me a very good insight into what is needed for our cooperative ecosystems to be stronger. And one of the things that I was observing closely is the need of constant education and cooperation among cooperatives. And with that in mind, I have been developing my skills as an educator for the solidarity economy movement and cooperatives with a perspective of transforming the current institutions. And as Rebecca was saying, the Solidarity Economy Principles Project that we're both part of is one of the ways that we have been just gathering with people, because we have been observing that there is a lot more, there is a need for a lot more spaces to be discussing what that means. What is the solidarity economy as a movement, as a framework, as an organizing framework? And so, yeah, we're here to share with you the things that we are working on, and to also hear from you about what do you see in your ecosystem, in your communities. And as you can see in our slides, we do everything in English and Spanish, because that's one of the agreements that we have, to be able to decenter English as the main language of knowledge and creating ideas and all of that, but that's more about language justice as well. So I'm very happy to have the space to practice this with everyone. And we, as a project, operate based on a long history of teachers and practices in the global South and everywhere where communities have been fighting totalitarian regimes, right? So we center our the teachers that have been expanding these movement of the solidarity economy in Spain, in Latin America, in Africa. And later, when you get the slides that we're going to share with you, I'm going to paste them in the chat. You will be able to see where are these these networks of teachers that we are learning from. I apparently cannot copy the link right now, but
I've
let me
put
try
I've
it
put them in the
again.
chat already.
Okay, great.
The
Okay,
copy of the slide deck is in the chat.
fantastic. So in the US, what we trace as key moments of the solidarity economy learnings and convenings to develop our framework is of course, the US Social Forum, and also the latest moments of crisis that we have all lived together, right? The pandemic in New York City, Occupy Wall Street, but I know that in many other places, we continue to see this sprouting of collaborations and grassroots movements that come together. And so we see this as part of our movement, but also we want to root our practice together, presenting you this framework, right? And what it means to be part of the solidarity economy. What do we propose? What is the invitation? So yeah, that's to start. We also come with regional networks of knowledge from Solidarity NYC, the Philadelphia Area Cooperative Alliance. I also work for the New York City Cooperative Economic Alliance as an educator of an intensive in cooperative leadership. My work with Rebecca in Madison, the network of worker co-ops in New York City, Community Economists Collective, Indigenous Sovereignty Work, the Center for Popular Economics. So we are all the knowledge that we gather and that we study comes from a long legacy of practitioners and teachers that are in strengthening this. We come with also three big understandings also inherited from these practices, which is that we are on a stolen indigenous land, and that has most of the infrastructure and the wealth that this country, known as the United States now, has been built on the labor of the stolen African labor and people. And another big principle that we understand is that we defend and protect living systems, and that means that we are part of nature and not a part. And that is something that guides all of our reflections on what the solidarity economy is as a movement, right? So these are the principles that we bring and the lenses that we use when we support our organizing for the solidarity economy. So with this in mind, I encourage you to keep these lenses as we talk through the things that bring us together as people that are concerned for community, that people that want to replace and create new systems of well-being. And so with that in mind, that's the opening of the bigger picture. And then we're going to think together more. And I'm going to pass the mic to Rebecca to tell us how we see movements.
Yeah, so I'd just like us to, and you can put your answers in the chat or raise your hand, but just let's reflect for a few minutes about what you think about what is the solidarity economy. When we say those words, what comes to mind in your mind? And we're going to be taking notes on this. Maria will be taking notes in a slide. And again, the slide deck, for those of you who just came in, we're going to drop the slide deck in the chat again. But right now, let's just hear from you about what comes to your mind when you think about solidarity economy. I see redistribution of resources and power, collective ownership, mutual care, worker-led owned, steward of resources, slowing down. I love that. Worker-centered, not exploitative, focused on meeting needs rather than profit, investment in place and each other, racial and economic justice in our workplaces. Hi, Leslie. Community supporting each other. I like the added lens of stewardship. Solidarity economy makes me think of a practice that avoids extractive economies. The intersectionality of the work we do as leaders in the community, moving away from scarcity mindset to growth mindset in resources, creativity and generosity, community control of resources. Y'all know, you know what we're talking about. New ways of working that is not extractive or of labor or resources, focused on care and interdependence. Collective well-being. Oh, this is just, we're making it right here. Para mí, la economía solidaria no depende del labor de los cuerpos morenos o negros para mantener una jerarquía capitalista. For me, the solidarity economy doesn't depend on the labor and bodies of Black and Brown people to maintain a capitalist hierarchy. Community mutual aid, local ecosystems of economic transactions not based on profit, creating accessibility to the worker ownership model. And you know what you're talking about there. Awesome. So we really wanted to get a sense of how you all are thinking about it. And I think pretty much you've hit on every single aspect. Someone who talked about, let's see, there was someone, I'm going back in the chat, about the intersectionality of work we do as leaders in the community. So we're going to talk about that in this next slide. This is a cool little graphic from the INI Foundation on social change. And hang on, my 3-screen setup isn't working, so I'm really juggling a lot of different things here. Excuse me, I got to move all the pictures. So solidarity economy it's an integrated approach to livelihood, that intersectionality. It's focused on economic change that's embedded in social and institutional relationships and movements. And by economic change in the economy, we just mean how people develop and distribute goods and services to meet their needs. That's really what the economy is. And so how do we change that to be more oriented towards social and social relationships and in the movements? So Anya came up with this cool little diagram where you need all 3 parts for sustainable, lasting social change. And that's, personal people doing the work of personal transformation. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of, I think we all have trauma coming up under white supremacist capitalism. And there's a lot of mindset that comes out of that trauma. It's like this false sense of reality that we create, that land is property, that to survive we have to exploit others, we have to climb ladders of success. All of that requires really deep personal healing and layers of that. So, everyone's where they're at on their journey, but we just really need to acknowledge that that's part of social change, is doing that work inside ourselves. Changing dominant institutions, that's a lot of what, when people think of activism, that's a lot of that sort of historically in this country has been where that has been focused on, changing the dominant institutions, such as, governments, corporate structures, business structures, economic structures, community structures. And then there's building alternatives. So that's what we're trying to do in the worker co-op movement. That's what mutual aid is trying to do. That's what a lot of intentional communities are trying to do. That's what, feminist social movements are trying to do, is create the alternatives. So in order to have to have actual movement, all three of these areas need to be engaged. Um, so I'm just wondering, have you seen these three categories from your work or in your movement? And um, go ahead and drop into the chat if how's this landing for you? Is it entirely new to you? Can you see how that works, those three parts work, and do you actively use this as a way to understand how your work fits into the whole? So go ahead and drop that into the chat or raise your hand, and we'd love to like literally hear your voices. Whoops, sorry. Oh my gosh, is my screen showing a library thing right now?
Yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
But that tells us that you read a lot. So
Oh my
yes,
God, no. All right, I'll
we
change
love
it. Wait,
libraries. It is, yes. I see a lot of
don't,
two in the chat, which is
yeah.
I can see how this works. And so, yeah, we continue to see more twos. And yeah, maybe people can share where um have you seen it maybe? I see Anna saying one for my paid job and two for my unpaid activism, right? Um, and Miriam tells us that she wants the pie chart to see a daily into desk. Yes, it is very. And as I was saying in the chat, Aini means reciprocity in Quechua, which yeah, is part of the languages that are um, in our networks of teachers and learning. But yeah, this is great because you are in a in and of course we wanted to okay, Astrid, go ahead. You're raising your hand
Ah.
before
Oh
I
no,
say
you can
something.
go ahead and finish your thought.
Yeah, no, I was saying that also part of the when we look at this personal transformation alternatives and changing dominant institutions. I was just going to say something that might sound obvious, but it's good to mention, which is thinking about your work in regions and ecosystems. That's also part of this framework, right? And I know that as part of the philanthropic work that you do, that is also something that I know helps collaboration and figuring out some of the principles of sharing resources and seeing each other as part of a movement, right? So just to mention that. So go ahead, Astrid.
Yeah. Oh, I really appreciate this chart. Thank you, Rebecca and Maria, for this presentation. I will just say, so this concept is newer to me for sure. And one of the things that I see in our work at Adoption Mosaic is that personal transformation is so much work for us who were adopted and taken and had experienced family separation. And so, what does it mean for us to ground ourselves and have this personal transformation without feeling like we're on attack all the time because our identities as people of color. I specialize in transracial adoption, and so for those of us who were raised in racial isolation, what does personal transformation mean is such, I mean, that is like a life's work, right? And getting that and transforming that to changing dominant institutions, when adoption is being considered as rainbows and unicorns, everybody wins. Adoption is so beautiful and so wonderful. And so we can't have a conversation about personal transformation unless we have a conversation, unless we can hold space for changing the dominant narrative of adoption, right? So when I look at this, it's like, wow, it just really speaks to me. So thank you. Pass.
I'm so
Yeah,
glad
and
that
also the weaving in of the change to dominant institutions, and also the creation of alternatives to give someone hope in the struggle. Like we can make a different world. We must make a different world. People are doing it and opening up that really painful personal space to understanding, oh, there are these global forces, that have put me in the situation where I am as someone struggling with XYZ, you know, what did you call it? Cross-racial adoption or what? I'm sorry, I didn't.
That's okay.
Transracial
Transracial.
adoption.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
that not only does that come out of a certain institutional structure and which can be changed, but we can also make alternatives to support the care of people who have been harmed by these.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also to complement this thought, right, is also this means institutions at all levels, including how we see family, right? I think that that's part of how we create systems of network, and I'm sure that you all in your conversations for policy, this is a huge issue right now, right? Because of how all of our communities are being impacted and having to confront state violence in terms of, as you were saying, Astrid, separating families, but it's also historically, this has been one of the most challenging state policies against people of color, working class, poor, Black and brown communities that also need to build transnational networks to be able to survive, right? With migration and many other strategies that we have. So I think that, yeah, the solidarity economy definitely has innumerable possibilities of how you can apply this, and we are here to reflect with you on the tools that we have been and we continue to be workshopping with people to identify how does it look like to even think about this framework and this lens in the work that we do, right? And I know that as people that are concerned for community, as I said, that already have embedded in our thinking the idea of cooperation as a main value of a practice that will transform the social order right now. We wanted to tell you what do we mean and invite you to read together what is that we mean when we say the solidarity economy, right?
So just before we go in there, I want to
Yeah.
read a quote from Lauren: how grassroots volunteer networks fill in the gaps where government and private enterprise will not provide for people. So in this solidarity economy framework, there are no gaps. We don't want to see any gaps. So the gaps are in the way the mainstream capitalist economy is running, and in this framework, the exploitation of grassroots volunteer labor is gone, right? Like
And
we are creating we want to create a world and a flow of work where there are no gaps, and so that's just a little prelude to what Maria's about.
right, because we don't want to keep subsidizing the mistakes of the state. We don't want to keep subsidizing the band-aids that the state provides for moments of crisis or just in general, right? So when we are defining, which is not, it doesn't happen by one person, it doesn't happen one time, right? Like the solidarity economy is precisely one of these lenses, frameworks, and tools that helps us to continue, is a living concept, is a living practice. And so what we came up together with for today to try to resonate with you and the work that you do is we came up with this with Rebecca, thinking about what can be a good introduction, and that is that solidarity economy transforms the current social order through what you were already mentioning, right? What you are already seeing, which is democratic self-management, worker ownership, redistribution, solidarity, and reciprocity. And related to what we were saying at the beginning is restoring the connection to living systems, and a very strong focus on how do we provide the tools that our communities need to satisfy their needs. And that's a very, very strong core of the solidarity economy, right? Because it's a practice and it's not only a view, but it is actually asks the question of what are the tools that we are building as communities, and what are the communities needs that we want to center, right? So by these very simple organizing questions, or one-on-one organizing questions about what are the needs of your communities and what do our communities have to solve their needs, this is already a big a different way of asking how does this work. right? So I wanted to pause a little bit here to see what you all think about this definition, this working definition, but it's also live. And I hope that, as a policy group, you all come up with your own definition of the solidarity economy for the kind of work that you are envisioning. And it's always very refreshing to come up with these kinds of reflections. So I would like to make a pause and see what you all think about this. Leslie, go ahead. I see your hand. You're raising your hand. You go ahead. You can.
Hello. I can't
Hey,
tell if you can see me or not because of the
we can
shared
hear you
screen.
though. Yeah.
Okay, great. I um I work in the worker co-op movement, but I wanted to say one thing right now about this because this is talking about having a basis in community. And I just wanted to talk about a couple of overarching political concepts that I really think do relate to this. One of them is displacement. And I do not believe that the waves of displacement that we've seen in our communities are a circumstance or a coincidence. I mean, we're essentially returning to feudalism in that more and more of homes are owned by major corporations. But displacement destroys the fabric of communities. And I'm acutely aware of that being in the Bay, where it's just been one incursion of wealthy people after another after another. And there was a really rich legacy of multi-generational, especially Black and Brown organizing and resistance here. And it's been very difficult to maintain when people are just scattered because they lose their housing and they lose their ability to stay in the community. The other I would like to talk about is the what surveillance was built out of, which is the fear of the other and how criminalization and the way that it's really escalated in the media and by politicians and in all kinds of ways has brought us to fear each other in the internet era in ways that might be unknown in history. So these are a couple of barriers that I'm really seeing to the implementation of these concepts on like a community-wide scale. People don't know each other and they're not taught to trust each other. And I think systemically, those are two really impactful variables that this work should grapple with. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, we see, and this is precisely what we mean when we say what are the tools that we are creating for these issues, right? I know that the Bay Area has a long tradition, as you say, but I know that it's also being debilitated by displacement. So I think we are all at a crossroads right now because a lot of the strategies that we have used in the past are no longer viable, especially I think because there is a system of intentional destruction of communities, intentional destruction of networks of affection and care, right? So I think that grappling with this is the work. And I see Lauren raising your hand. So yeah, go ahead, but we can continue with that topic.
Yeah, great. Thank you. One way in which I think the solidarity economy will be so essential for people in the future is that, from my own experience working in different sectors, people are so detached from their work. They don't see how what they're doing, all these hours they're putting in, how that benefits the people around them, how that benefits their communities, how that benefits, their all of the problems that they feel are going on in the world. And then, it's even kind of an internet joke of like, I'm just doing my little spreadsheets while the world burns. And I feel that is a huge issue for people that are feeling displaced in their communities and disconnected from their work for the majority of their waking hours. And I think that is a huge reason that we are seeing such a spike in loneliness and mental health issues. People do not have the ability to stay connected to each other or to the work that they do. And I think that the solidarity economy would be a huge, huge remedy to that and would actually allow us to focus on the work that matters.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that when we reflect on what is the difference, I think we just have so many points on our side because we are already very well versed in what capitalism is because we live it every day. We are experts, and I think that what we are experiencing in this decade and decade to come, I will dare to say, is that we definitely need to adjust our strategies and definitely think together about what is that reciprocity, solidarity means in these moments, right? And I think that and I don't know, I would like to hear more about what people think is the difference between solidarity economy and capitalism, because yes, we're talking about isolation, we're talking about alienation, we're talking about disconnection from the labor that we have. And I think that the setup that we have in place in in the economy that is imposed upon us makes those conditions by design. And so what are the conditions that we need to create to be able to cooperate and create solidarity? It's, I think, the main question that can help us to reignite our political imagination, our political strategic thinking. And yeah, I think it's about we are we're versed in gentrification. We also were versed in knowing what are the next steps of the next stage of capitalism. And I think that all that knowledge is super important. But I think the question is, what are the creative responses and the things that we need to dismantle so that we free ourselves from that? And I know that I am preaching to the choir, but I know that also we have a lot of hope in our daily lives because we see that how precious life is. So I'm gonna, yeah, Bethany, go ahead. You have the mic, and then we have another. Yes, and Leslie has one comment in the chat that I will read in a minute, but go ahead. The person that was raising their hand, Bethany.
Okay. Well, I don't know that I have an answer more than an example, but I can share one from my work in what I see as the difference between solidarity economy and capitalism. So I do interior design work for health system, and what I see in the way that the funds are distributed for capital projects is that they tend to go towards the money-making operations, right? Special surgeries, imaging. When the health system doesn't, the rest of the folks don't have basic tools for their work. I'm talking like desk chairs and ergonomics and just really basic. And so when you're thinking about folks who just don't have the means, like the basics to do their really hard work, like a functioning laptop, it's hard, it's challenging, but I see that as a very much that dichotomy. Where are we putting the money that's going to return, money,
Right.
but we're not distributing it.
Yeah, and that's going to be our next exercise. Before we go into that, I want to address what Leslie was saying in the chat. One major difference is who keeps the surplus of the labor, and also, as and Bethany saying, who has the tools for the labor, but also who creates the solutions for the needs that are prioritized. I would complete those two comments that you're all making with who decides what are the priorities, right? Because I think, for example, for the question of housing, we know that when private sector doesn't own all the equity of housing, the landscape of housing looks different, right? We already know that that's how it works. And so with that in mind, we are going to present to you our take on the different what is, because we know, as I was saying, we know really well the capitalism surplus cycle, and we know very well how the supply chain of capitalism works. Nobody asked for 2-day delivery from Amazon. They made that shit up. Nobody asked them that. I don't know who decided that that's a priority of society these days. Who decided that we need something from Vietnam delivered to our homes in like 3 days? Like, I mean, this is what we are facing. These jet owners are deciding how even our consumption and desires come from their ideas, right? So it's really, really terrible. But yeah, so Rebecca is going to guide us is going to invite us into some breakout groups where we are going to look at these wheel. First, we're going to see the wheel, right, Rebecca? Is that right? And then we're going to go into breakout.
Yeah, you're going to briefly go around the wheel, and then we're just going to have some short little time where three of you can get together and talk about where you see your work falling in this wheel, and or ideas about, how to, I mean, if we want to talk about gaps, let's talk about gaps that we have in building our system of solidarity. Yeah.
So basically what we do, we take these cycles because this is just, economic cycle of creation, production, exchange, consumption, and surplus allocation, basics of economics as we know them, right? And so we have created this wheel with the version of the value chain of the solidarity economy, which we present to you. And I'm going to give you like 1 minute to see what is there. And maybe I can ask people to help me read real quick some of the things that we see in creation. Who would like to read what you see in the creation area over here? You can zoom in with your cursor over it. So who would like to read creation? Just go ahead, take the mic and start reading, whoever wants to read it. And in the meantime, Rebecca is preparing our breakout groups. So what we see in creation, who can read it out loud? Who would like to take the mic? Can you see the wheel in your screen?
I can read it.
Go ahead, Miriam. Thank you. My mom's name is Miriam.
Miriam is fine. Creation is land/wisdom, knowledge, language, culture, climate. Creación, tierra, sabiduría, conocimiento, lenguaje, cultura, ambiente.
Right. If we were in a meeting with all Silicon Valleys, that would read completely different in their mindset, right? All right. So who would like to read the next one on the right, production? Who would like to read that one? Who would like to take the mic and have some? You can take the mic. Maybe Astrid? Would you like to read it? I'm volunteering you.
Sure. Community gardens, work co-ops, producer co-ops, and collective farms.
Right. We start to see some of the tools of the solidarity economy that we see our communities are already using, and this is very different than the solutions that we find in capitalism, right? Okay, so now who would like to read the next one after production? Exchange. May I volunteer somebody if that's okay? How about Monica?
Sure thing. Exchange, transfer, sliding scale pricing, time banks, barter, alternative currencies, mutual aid, gifting, intercambio, transferencia, escala variable de precios, bancos de tiempo, trueque, divisas alternativas, ayuda mutua, donaciones.
Excellent. Who would like to take the next one? Consumption.
I can read this one.
Go ahead, Anna.
So consumer co-ops, housing co-ops, food co-ops, buying clubs, community land trusts, cooperative energy, and CSAs.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And we have the last one, surplus allocation. Who would like to read that one? How about Mary Kay?
Okay. Surplus allocation, community, development credit unions, cooperative loan funds, patronage dividends. I don't know what that is.
Susus. Who knows what susus are? Who would like to share? Do you know? SUSUs are community funds that people put together to support other people, and it has no interest. It can be based on an amount that everybody agrees to contribute at the beginning, and then that goes into the person that has the need, and then everybody agrees to get something in return or just put it back to loan to somebody else. So it's a community loan fund, more or less. It's like a tanda, exactly. The same as a tanda. It's just I think SUSU is the African name.
And then composting.
It's
Thank you.
Yeah, it's an informal savings pool
Mhm.
that's shared democratically. Yeah.
Right.
So now we'd like you to think about where the work of your organization might fall into this wheel. And I'm going to send you just for about 3 minutes into breakout groups, maybe 4 or 5 minutes of 3 people, and just share with each other. And then we'll come back and have a larger integration of our collective knowledge. So people are
slowly trickling in.
All right, welcome back. I hope you met some new people and learned some new things in your time together. So you were talking about where your organization fits in the wheel. If you want to just either come off mute and say the name of your organization and where it fits, or put it in the chat. Maria's going to take notes, and we'll have a collection of all of us and our orgs on this chart. And so I know you're not all from the Pacific Northwest, but many, many of you are. And maybe this can be a start for your work together for building and connecting to the solidarity economy movement that's already there, and then building it out. So what do you think? What's your org and where does it fit in?
Hi, my name is Liz Folder Branch, and I'm on the Oregon Commission for Black Affairs. So it was very interesting to try to think about this group as an organization, because we're basically a committee that is a liaison between the government and the community. So I would like to say we're working on all those things and how it enhances the community, and in specific the Black community. There's 4 commissions. There's Okapia, which is Asian Pacific Islanders. There's a Latino Hispanic community. There's the Commission on Women Affairs, and then there's Commission on Black Affairs. So it kind of covers everything but covers nothing. I think we're all working towards the same goals of being more like a solidarity economy, but really in reality, when a piece of who we answer to is the government. And that's kind of what I was saying in the small group too. So kind of to think about does the legislature fit into that? I don't know. Does the government fit into that? I doubt it. And just how colonized the systems are still going on. So I don't know if I'm making sense or not.
Totally. But I think you are bearers of wisdom and knowledge is what you bring. And so that would be in creation, right? You're advocating for things you care and love and know about, you have knowledge about, you have wisdom around. So I would put that under creation, but it's an interesting question. When we have a fully flourishing solidarity economy, is there a need for advocacy? I mean, I think there probably is. There's probably there's some ways that we need to communicate with each other and know each other's needs. But that's something I haven't thought about before. Thanks so much, Liz. It's really interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I see resource generation here. They're in surplus allocation. Thank you, Michelle, very much so. Miriam says Unidos Bridging Community, they're in exchange and transfer and surplus allocation. Jess is with For All Families Oregon, and they do advocacy around care systems. So like Liz, they're moving throughout the wheel, but I think they're like knowledge holders in creation, and they're, representing people. Someone else want to come off the mic? And Rainbow Grocery, 50 years in San Francisco, production. They're worker-owned, democratically self-managed, networked into the worker cooperative movement. They have outreach and technical assistance committee, so feel free to contact Leslie or Rainbow Co-op regarding brick and mortar worker co-op questions. Yes, and if you have questions about the different kinds of co-ops, we saw different co-ops in the wheels, production co-ops, consumer co-ops. We can reach out to us or Leslie. We can help you understand that.
Leslie, did you think that what do you say production? Why is it production and not consumption? What did you produce in the
it was based on a previous slide and how the I would have to look at that slide
worker
again.
Co-op. No, because they're a worker co-op. They're not a consumer co-op.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
they're
what
both,
they're
right?
a worker
They're
co-op
both.
grocery store.
They're both,
so
I think. Yeah.
So they're owned by the workers co-ops and consumers. Worker co-ops are businesses that are owned and democratically managed by the workers. This one just happens to be a grocery store. I think many of us are familiar with food co-ops. Those are typically not worker co-ops. Those are consumer co-ops that can be democratically run or not, can be very hierarchical and union busting. So it's a big difference between the production and consumption. So for example, Leslie's co-ops, right today they're doing groceries, but tomorrow, the workers could decide to produce something else that the community needs, because that's how they're organized around the will and the needs of the workers. Okay, so I think we're running out of time here. Maria, was this you were gonna do this or was I gonna do this?
I think both.
Yes.
But yeah, I think what we were thinking also, if you want to share how you are connected to the larger solidarity economy already, maybe something that came to you while we're presenting and you already identified how you're connected, besides Raybon, that is evidently already connected to the solidarity economy movement. We know of another amazing worker co-op that is a bakery, that is one of the examples that we use in a lot of our teachings with Arismendi, who is, they are also a worker co-op, but also doing incredible work building housing from their business, right? So that's one of the examples that we always use. But is there anyone who would like to share maybe another connection through the solidarity economy besides what we saw in the wheel, or something that came for you? And then after that, we were going to share with you our offerings and what we're doing for you to get maybe plugged in. All right. So let's then, just share what our offerings are. Rebecca, you want to do that?
Yeah, whoops. I went back too far. I don't know how to go back. Let's see. Okay, here they are. Every Thursday, the fourth Thursday of every month, we have what we call a dream time, which is a free open forum for connecting with other people and organizations who are building solidarity economy movements. We're having one tomorrow from 9 to 10:30 Pacific time, and you see the other times there, but I'm assuming most. I understand there's one Eastern time zone person here as well, but you're welcome to join. We will give Kristen the link to join that. And so she'll send it out to the list of registrants. And then we're building a series of 3 2-hour workshops called Foundations of Cooperation for the Solidarity Economy. And that's to really dig in deeper to questions about mindsets, questions about conditions. Leslie was talking about the surveillance state and displacement, and what are the conditions we're living in, and what are the conditions that need to be there. She referred to conditions of trust and knowing each other. What are those conditions to be able to build solidarity economy entities, including definitions, so a basic grounding in that. And then in May, we'll be talking about how we build together. And then in June, we'll be talking about larger orientations to these geopolitical trends in the world, forces in the world, and how we build movement together. So also when we have the registration up for that, we will send it to Kristen and she'll pass it on to you. We will also likely have it on our website, which is solidarityeconomyprinciples.org. And so I dropped the slides in the chat. If you could just click, help us with some feedback by clicking on that and moving a star, putting a star where you feel it lands for you. That would be much appreciated. Maria, a final word?
Yeah, to check out how we approach the solidarity economy principles, because we have created a very thorough set of principles and practices that help us to see where are we with our practices of collective care, relationships and accountability, shared resources and shared vision, liberation culture, democracy and process, education and leadership. And so you can use this to see some of the tools for reflecting together. And we really value your feedback about this. And you can use the forms and the principles and the tools are available on our website. So it will be great if you can use this with your groups to see where you're at and your commitments to this transformation of the economy.
Maria, can you change the settings on these slides? I can't do it while I'm sharing it to be editing so they can do the stars.
Oh,
because it's on view
absolutely.
only.
Of course. Let me see.
So anyone can edit.
I'll do it. Yep.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Ruth, for letting us know.
There you go.
Hand it back to
Done.
Kristen.
Awesome. I know we are just at 1 o'clock, so I don't want to take up any more of your time, but thank you so much for being here. Feel free to reach out with any questions or additional sort of resources that you'd like. Like I said, I'll follow up with all of the things that we've talked about today. Really appreciate you spending your lunch hour and or a bit of your afternoon with us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great meeting you all. Take care.